Hi, I'm Ellen Siegel, and today I'm talking with Janine Vague of Transformative Psychotherapy. So relax into your openness and enjoy this enlightening conversation.
Welcome, everyone, to Enlightening Conversations. We're here again together, Janine Vague and Ellen Siegel. And today we're focusing on the topic of aging, which means a lot of things to different people and then means a lot to all of us together as human beings. So glad to be with you again, Janine.
Thank you. Yes, I'm happy to be with you too. So I'm going to start off by reading a quote by Dame Judi Dench, who I absolutely love. And so she says, one of the benefits of being a mature, well-educated woman is that you're not afraid of expletives and you have no fear to put a fool in his place. That's the power of language and experience.
Wow.
She is an amazing woman. She's been in everything from TV shows, which I just love and adore, to, I can't think of it, As Time Goes By, that's the name of it. So she's been in these TV shows where she's the romantic lead. She's been in a movie where she was an older woman with a younger man. She's been in a movie where she's completely naked. I think 2 times she was naked, and all in her senior years. And she's also been in a James Bond movie or 2. So that woman is diverse and incredible in my book.
Sounds like she's comfortable with herself too.
Very.
It occurs to me to say to our viewers that anything that we say, just whatever, we're just doing this as a casual conversation, although we're both have strong feelings, opinions, and openness. So whatever resonates with you, take. What doesn't resonate with you, think about it and then throw it out.
Yes.
So I just wanted to say that.
I agree. So I'm 59 years old. I'm going to be 60 this summer, this August.
Oh, happy birthday. Happy birthday.
That's a long way away. I'm not 60 yet, but so I just wanted to say that because I think it's important to show our comfort level with who we are and how old we are, because it shouldn't be something you're ashamed of.
I agree. So I'm going to say to you, I am ageless.
Oh, okay.
My body is 72 years old. And it seems to be in good working order. And it's my intention, through any ways that come to me that I learn, to keep it as a functioning vehicle. I view it as a biochemical and electrical vehicle.
Okay.
And so in these more recent years, I've been doing whatever I can to school myself in that, because I'd like to be around on the planet until I decide that I'm done or I've had enough. And
that's good. And you know, I think it's important. I've always felt like you have to take care of your body. I mean, I've always been that way. I'm not some extreme person in the way I eat or anything like that, but I've always taken care of my body through exercise, vitamins. I do different kinds of things like massage to help deal with my profession and the stress that I go through with that. But I've always been a cyclist, and now I'm doing spinning. I swim 12 laps every week. And it varies. I mean, I go from different types of exercises. I've done bar for a while, and I've done different types of yoga, everything from hatha yoga way back when I was 15 years old to Kundalini yoga, which is a very advanced form of yoga. So I've done like lots and lots of things over the years because I just felt like I wanted to stay healthy. And remember the last conversation we had, I talked about my growing up with a family that was taking lots of pills and being in and out of hospitals. And I didn't want to be that way in my life. And this is more to the point of, it wasn't just about being a holistic professional, but also about taking care of my body. So I didn't end up in and out of the hospital like what I saw growing up.
And it just occurs to me as we're talking about this, that in the last 3 years, I've been putting myself in a situation where I could be schooled about, and this is just one element of many things, what Paramahansa Yogananda talked about as scientific meditation. And it's based on this knowing of ancient wisdom and knowledge that appeals to me, that that our bodies, that we're basically energy, which we sort of learned in junior high and middle school, and that cells are created and they have a life where they're maintained, and then they are discreated or die or destruct, being replaced by new growth and things like that. Yeah. And so anyway, in this philosophy, the philosophy is to stay ahead of the normal decay of one's physical cells, and that there's an actual way that this approach says you can do that, which is about bringing more life force energy into your body than you would ordinarily take. So you sort of stay ahead of the curve of the decaying. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but it really appeals to me. And I don't know if it appeals to me because I'm on the planet longer. My body, according to conventional agreed upon understanding, is that we're born, the body ages, decays, and then you die. This other philosophy is you can keep drawing in life force energy and choose to leave whenever you want. And, you know, and maybe that happens at a higher realm of consciousness that I'm not aware of. So, you know, it's an interesting idea, and I think there's lots of ideas, but nevertheless, the common culture on the planet, and we as a collective, we sort of all have agreed that, you know, the aging of the body somehow leads to death. And then we've had also, I mean, in the years I've been alive, and I'm sure in other arcs of time, the idea of youth and how great youth is, and you know, the older you get, you know, the less vim and vigor you have, and winding down, and the idea of retiring or working during your strongest years and then going easy later on. Some people have that, some people don't have that as a luxury. And then there's ailments and things that look like aging earlier in a person's life. You know, we hear sometimes, oh, they're aging well, or oh, they're not aging well. You know, right. And it might have to do with wrinkles in what a person looks like.
Yeah.
And then also how you feel, is it hereditary? My mother told me, she said, listen, once you hit 30, you're going to start to feel aches and pains the rest of your life.
Mm.
And I remember inside myself, I just smiled. And inside myself, I went, no, not me. I'm not doing that. Not me. And actually, I think she must have had things that she felt in her body, even at 30. And that was her experience. And does one person's experience have to be whatever the quote norm experience? So these are the kinds of things that come to my mind when I see the term aging.
Yeah.
So I don't know what comes to you.
Well, when I see the term aging, I think I get frustrated that in our society, in our American society, because it's definitely not as prominent in Europe or other continents. I think we are so obsessed because of celebrities with having to look a certain way, and so we often get into a very shallow place with regard to plastic surgery, of course, and then it's when you see interviews with celebrities nowadays, it's like, oh, I know she's had a nip and a tuck here and there, and and that's what the conversation is about, is talking about where do you see the plastic surgery. And just for the record, I have no plastic surgery, absolutely none. I have wanted to get something done. It was a medical procedure, not for vanity, but for my back. But I won't go into that. But, that's the only thing I've ever really considered doing. But it really was a medical reason. It wasn't to look like something different. So that's what I look at. And then when I look at aging European stars, Catherine Deneuve, she was once the most beautiful woman in the world. And now she is a larger woman. But when I look at her, I just see umbrellas of Cherbourg. I just see that young 60-year-old woman, it's not 60. I see that young woman in the 60s. And that's what I see, because she's such a beautiful woman. And Dame Judi Dench, I think back, I don't think she's ever really changed too much. But see, these women from Europe, it's like they know, like, I'm pretty sure Catherine Deneuve is thinking, I don't care. I'm fabulously wealthy and well-known. What do I care? I don't need to look a certain way because I'm already a well-known name and can, any movie is going to sell with her in it. So I think I love that they have so much confidence in themselves that they are not allowing their age to define them.
You brought up, and I'm thinking we might end up having two of these conversations about this topic, because you're bringing up really roots of things, like the idea of beauty and the idea of shallow, or another term for that is superficial.
Yes.
And then a deeper appreciation of what a term or a concept can mean. So beauty, and I believe that the view of let's say American society, and it's probably not good to stereotype even that, but lots of businesses are built on it, that as you get older, you lose your beauty. Well, beauty is a term where when someone is looking at somebody's facial features
Mhm.
and says somebody doesn't look beautiful, that's a matter of
Perception.
perception. I think about that. There was a Twilight Zone. I don't know if you ever saw
Oh,
that.
I know what you're going to say.
Right? In the eyes of the beholder, where, it was all done, the taking off the bandages, and the whole show was the mystery of, is this plastic surgery going to work? And
Uh-huh.
then they take off the bandages, and you look at the medical staff, and by American standards, they had features that were not formed in the ways that we're used to. And the person who bandages were taken off was by American standard of beauty.
Mhm.
And she was an outcast in this other culture. And, it was just so telling. So I think that the idea of, there was that old phrase, beauty is only skin deep, but
Mhm.
really, what about the beauty inside? And
Yeah.
when we get distracted by the outside, we
Mhm.
might not see the inside. And then you could raise the question, and each one of us gets to do that. Where is the real beauty, and what does beauty constitute? Because in our culture, so fabulous businesses,
Yeah.
where there are employees who are making livings. We need businesses to support workers. And there's the whole cosmetic industry
Right.
and all the wrinkle cream commercials. And
Mhm.
I'm looking at some of the people in the commercials, and they don't look much over like 30. And I
Yep.
didn't have any wrinkles at 30.
Yeah, I know.
And then they have some older women, or maybe it's people with gray hair, and that makes them look older, but they have pretty good skin too.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I know. I always find it hilarious when you see a wrinkles cream commercial, and it's some 20-year-old girl in the commercial, and it's like, yeah, I think the advertisers kind of made a mistake here.
Or I did have the thought, and maybe I was a good subject for the commercial to have an effect on me, was like, I wonder if I'd started using that cream when I was 20, would I have these laugh lines? I remember my grandmother used to say, Ellen, don't frown. You're frowning. You're going to get lines in your forehead. I didn't know how to control
I know.
my face. I
I
didn't know
know.
how to
What were
do
you
that.
supposed to do?
Really?
Yeah, you don't really know what to do. I remember a commercial, maybe it was Jergens, I can't remember, but it was a commercial where a mother and daughter duo.
Oh.
Do you remember?
Yeah,
And
where they had their hands.
yeah, and they put this cream on, and then they'd show you the hands, and they say which one's the mother and which is the daughter. And that commercial really affected me, because I was always looking at my hands as I got older and wondering, I wonder if anyone would know that I'm 30 or 40 or 50. I mean, I kept always wondering about that, because, well, that's the power of commercialism. And there are some, and speaking of plastic surgery, there are, living in Los Angeles for several years, and then Santa Barbara, living all over California for 30 years. But in those two areas, I saw the beginnings of crazy plastic surgery. And I would look at these women and I would think, this is an advertisement for not having plastic surgery. But yet it continued on and on and on, that when more and more women just went crazy with it. But and of course, and there are some males, a very infamous male that most people know about, who looked like a cartoon character by the time he died. And then, but yeah, that to me, when I would see things like that, I would just think to myself, if they've got all the money that they have and they ended up walking away looking like that, I'm sure me, a non-celebrity who doesn't have millions of dollars, is not going to be able to find, anybody to be able to do something that I would want to do and have it look right.
There's two things I wanted to add to that. So my mother-in-law, she was a person who had very, very large breasts. And in her life as a young person, I mean, I knew her later in life, but she was hunched over,
Yeah.
and very, very self-conscious. And when she was about 50, I was standing with her in her kitchen. She says, I'm trying to get myself to call a surgeon because I know I have a friend who had a breast reduction operation and I really want to do that, but I have shame and, people are going to think I'm superficial. So I said, well, why don't you just make the call? That doesn't mean you're going to do it. So anyway, she made the call, she went through with it. And for her, because of her emotional relationship with herself and whatever negative conclusion, demeaning conclusion she'd made or limiting conclusion she'd made about herself growing up, that when she had this surgery, it actually lifted her out of experiences that she'd had for years that she couldn't quite solve with therapy. And it really
Yeah, I get that.
You never know.
Yeah.
And then there's many people. I had a friend also who wanted to have something fixed with her nose, not even a major thing. And it was ruined. It ruined her nose.
Oh no.
So then she needed to live with that and make peace with that sometime in her life. So sometimes I have seen people who have had plastic surgery, to make themselves look younger and things like that. And sometimes it's really, really, and I wonder, is the person really happy?
I agree.
I
agree. Yeah. It's sad. Well, I imagine that the people who have the stretched out faces are probably pretty disappointed. I'm sure they don't look in the mirror and think to themselves, yay, I look like a scared cat and I'm going to look like that the rest of my life. But I'm sure they don't think that way. And I'm not, I'm not bashing them either, even though I'm being honest about this, because I know that where you're at mentally to feel a need to get into this place. I mean, we're both psychotherapists, so we do understand that. I read a book many years ago, though, by, I forget his name, but it's called Psycho-Cybernetics. You ever read that?
I remember the title.
It was by a plastic surgeon. It was written by a plastic, and it was early in my psychology career that I read it. And we read it specifically to learn about confidence and that's what he was talking about. He would have his clients look in the mirror before the surgery and he'd say, that person is still going to be there. You're not going to be anybody different. You're just going to have a different mask on, but you're still going to be the same. But your aunt, I can completely relate to that. And that's a medical reason, what she was trying to do, because it's very, I'm in the same situation. So it's very painful. You're stooping over a lot. You can't stand up straight. You can't, it's hard on your back. It's just very difficult. So I can imagine that, sitting up straight for the first time in her life after so many years, it must have felt so easy and less painful for her. after
Well, and also she was a person who was very also invested in her appearance. So for her, it had like the dual,
yeah.
which was very interesting.
Well,
I was happy for her.
a lot of times when people, when women have defaults in some way, perceived defaults, they will try to compensate by having people focus up here, or focus on their shoes, or focus on their clothing, so that you don't notice the part that you're not comfortable with.
So I think default, perceived,
Default.
say that again.
Perceived default.
Default, right.
In the body.
So that about aging, that it's something we should try to get away from.
Yeah.
In favor of youth, and because its connotations are decline, decay, near death, heading toward the end of life, whatever that brings up for a person, unfinished business, not fun, whatever, not enough time to accomplish things, because there's lots of fears that are associated. Fear is underneath as an association for many about aging.
Yeah. And well, and let's think about if you're a single person, like I am, it's fearful when you're getting older and you're still a single person, you're getting gray coming through your hair. And so those are the kind of things. Now in the movie business, that's the celebrities. Well, here in America, Hollywood doesn't favor older women. And so that's where the push comes from in Hollywood, that women feel a need to stay looking 30 years old so they can get those parts, because just not enough parts are given to older women. Unlike in the foreign films, there's no problems with what women look like. There's no issues with getting roles as an older woman in France or Italy, or, those countries love their women no matter how old they are. And you continue to see them in roles as an older woman. And they still carry the movie as much as they did in 1960, like I said, with Catherine Deneuve and Isabelle Adjani and Isabelle Hubert. So many women, and the men too, they have no problems getting films either. But these films are about older women and what they go through in their life. That's why I love watching it, because to me, they're role models, and it helps me when I watch foreign films to learn a little bit about the aging process by watching how they have adapted over the years, and how comfortable they are with their bodies and their and the way they look. Yeah.
And there are a few older actresses who get parts in America.
Yeah, Meryl Streep.
Right. That's what I think of, but not as much. And also, that's not a featured part of life that's validated in this country.
Yes, it's not. It's not. And I think that's very frustrating. I was looking at something that Susan Sarandon said, and she said, I look forward to being older when what you look like becomes less and less an issue, and what you are is the point. She hasn't had too many problems getting roles as an older woman, but I find, though, that when they do take on roles as older women, like Glenn Close has been in a few things as of recent, like Hillbilly Elegy, and I saw her in something else, where they purposely, well, of course, it was relevant for the part, but it was just interesting that they purposely made them look really bad in those roles. which I think that kind of draws out that fear in women. Oh God, I'm going to look like that when I become 50 or 60. You know, I mean, it was relevant in Hillbilly Elegy that she looked the way she did. But I'm just saying, a lot of times you're seeing older women in roles where they have to be doctored to look really bad or shabby. And that seems to be the only time they can be in a role for an older woman.
And that, go ahead, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Well, versus like Catherine Deneuve, a movie that she was in, where whenever she's in movies, she tends to be like a CEO in the movie versus being in a role where she's this shabby looking person.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I was just going to say in that Susan Sarandon quote, I think that that's really, I was having goosebumps when you read it. It's about where who you are
is the point.
What you are is takes more precedence, you know.
It's more important who you are, what you've accomplished in life. And I think that is, when I think about that, I think that is so important as a almost 60-year-old woman now. And when I look back on my life and think about all the things that I've accomplished in my life, it's like, wow, I didn't do so bad. And so that's where I feel so much pride in myself. And so, and have a feeling of happiness is when I can look back on my life and think about where I was at 20 years old and where I am now, and all the steps that it took to get here, and where I've lived and where I've traveled and so forth and so on. It doesn't seem so bad to me because I have accomplished a lot. If I was turning 60 and I don't know, still living in an apartment, which wouldn't be a big deal in California because not too many people in California can afford a house. But just thinking about doing something like that in Ohio, you can. So if I was still living in an apartment, if I was a drug addict, if I was, I don't know, if I had nothing to my name to show for myself, I mean, that would be pretty sad and depressing, I think, as I'm turning 60. But because I've made use of my life and fought really hard to overcome obstacles, to put myself through college and university, it's like I can start to relax now and feel some comfort that it's been worth it all these years.
So maybe there's, I'm just thinking about that to invite our viewers, whatever you've been able to accomplish, and we've all, lots of times it's hard to see what we've accomplished. I'm telling you, where the accomplishments are not as obvious, and that there's the things that we do, and there's things that we are, and there's values that we have, and and I don't know how this is related to aging as much as for people to be able to shift their focus to what you just did, Janine, to what can I appreciate about myself that I actually have lived. And for some of us, it shows up more on the outside. I remember once a friend's daughter who knew that I was a counselor and I got paid per session rather than paid per week, said, "Oh, if that's what she gets paid for an hour, why doesn't she live in a mansion? Well,
If only.
I don't work in the way where I have that. Yes, I receive per session, and I put it together. And my way is not to live in a mansion. Someone else might.
Yeah. But you also don't work 40 hours a week
Well,
making.
that's the thing.
Yeah.
So, so anyone, what things look like on the outside,
Right.
we know what it means to us.
Yes.
Like you so personally shared, and I appreciate that, Janine, so much, what the accomplishments mean to you, and the challenge of the work, and the intention to bring what you could about. And then, and I do it in my way, and whoever is watching this, and like you said, in California, the meaning of an apartment. In Columbus, I know somebody who has sought to live in the most meager way in order to free them up to apply their mind or their time in some other endeavor that that's an accomplishment for them.
Exactly.
So
yeah, I was hesitating saying that because I thought I was hesitating because I thought, okay, that's not fair to some people, because yes, you're talking about somebody who wants a very small carbon footprint. So that's not a bad thing.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's
you brought up one view,
yeah.
And I'm just saying to the audience that that's one, I'm another. And the most important thing is that you look for who you are. Yes, you're going to maybe pay attention to aging. That could mean what would you like to do with the rest of the time on the planet?
Yeah.
It might mean, and there are certain kinds of work that a person does where they need to design what they look like in order to, because this is like the way you present sometimes figures in to accomplishing whatever goal you have. So my pitch is to do it consciously rather than unconsciously.
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of, try not to do something that's going to do permanent limiting damage to yourself. But something, a person makes a choice and has a right to make that choice.
They do.
It's like some people choose medical remedies, and someone else will say, you know what, I'd rather have a shorter life and not that. And someone else will say, well, you know what, I want to have every additional minute, so I'm going to choose this. So, it's just to have our eyes as wide open as possible is my invitation.
Yeah. And I wasn't, well, anyway, the conversation is about taking pride in yourself, and whatever that means to you. If you're somebody who, Buddhists, that you live very frugally, or you're a nun and you're going to live a certain way, but yet be very proud of yourself because you have accomplished a lot in life, and because you're living the way your religion, as a very pious person, not having a lot of things. Right.
And sometimes having experienced addictions myself, that working your way out of an addiction and getting help, constitutes your personal value, to do your best, whatever conditions you find yourself in.
It shows your integrity.
Yeah. And that you no matter how badly you feel, as you're working yourself out of things, no matter how limiting and dark it can be, your value, there's a presumed value that you have at the heart of that has you moving in, quote, a better direction. So, and you still get to deal with society's view about aging and discrimination that you might encounter.
Yes.
Right?
That's true.
All of us. You know, so there's that.
Yeah. Okay, so we are going mostly in this direction of plastic surgery and so forth, but there's other things to talk about in the aging process. I wanted to talk about menopause because I think that's really important for young women to understand what that's all about, or older women who are wondering, what can I expect? And everybody's body is different. So how women go through menopause is going to be different on every single woman. And whether they've had a hysterectomy, whether they've, there's, you know, all kinds of medical reasons why you're going to have a different experience than somebody who hasn't. But I think that's a kind of that can also be a fun conversation too, as to, you know, I mean, we've both finished with menopause, so we're both post. And so I think talking about looking back on my experience, there was a time there in my late 40s, early 50s where I really thought I was going nuts. I mean, there were times when I could feel like I was going to kill somebody. I mean, you know, road rage. Okay. Went a little berserk there, and a couple of incidences, and and even in a parking lot. I mean, I had my fried green tomatoes moment. I didn't actually hit the car, but I had that moment that Kathy Bates had in that movie where somebody was trying to ditch me in a parking space, and I just suddenly went ballistic. But mostly I was screaming in my car, and they had no idea what was going on. But it's just, you know, so you have those moments, and then once you're relieved of all that tension, because a certain thing begins to happen, then the next day you're like, everything's coming up roses, everything's wonderful. So it's like those mood swings, just, oh my gosh, I'll never forget those. Or sitting in my rocking chair, oh, I'll never forget this. I thought I was having a nervous breakdown, and maybe I was. But I remember sitting in my rocking chair, just rocking for hours one day because I was just in some kind of a space. And so, you know, those crazy moments that now in retrospect seem ridiculous.
Right, but hormones do send you into, you know, emotional turmoil.
Yeah.
Sometimes women have that after they've given birth. Sometimes women have that through their menstrual cycle. You know, my mother had a really hard time. I mean, she had to go to bed like every month.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's hard.
And, you know, I guess, you know, and like you said, everybody's body is different. I had breast cancer at 45 and surgery, and that put me into menopause.
Oh.
And it didn't, you know, some people don't have as much, what shall I say, from pillar to post as others. So I had like I really didn't have more than a month of really, I'll call it violent hot flashes.
Ooh,
But some people it goes on for years.
still going on
And
here.
yes. And, you know,
So
so
yours was just a month long.
about a month or two.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was brought on by the surgery, I was
Mm.
told.
I see. I see. Yeah, my sister and I, we still go through hot flashes, and
Sure.
yeah, it can be. And she had a hysterectomy, so she thought people had told her, oh, it's only going to last a year or so. But yeah, it's been going on forever. And it can be difficult because, I'll wake up in the middle of the night and just be so hot and
Right.
flipping off the covers. I mean, this winter, it's been kind of an incredible experience. I didn't have my blanket on. It's been the hot flashes have been worse this winter for some reason.
Interesting.
And so I haven't used a blanket all winter.
Wow.
Which is unusual for me.
Mhm.
And so many times during the evening, I'm flipping the comforter off, and it'll go for, a couple of minutes or a couple of seconds. I don't know. The next thing I know, I'm freezing, throw it back on again. My sister has to put a fan in her room because
Right.
she gets them a little bit worse. She can't handle the heat as much as I can. So she's got a fan she has to get up and turn on and turn off several times at night. Some women get night sweats. I've never experienced that.
That was awful.
Yeah, where they literally are dripping wet kind
Yeah.
of thing, I've heard. But the mood swings, which is what is wonderful about that, is that does not happen. That does not continue. I think that has something to do with the period, though, because the menstrual cycle, because what I was kind of hinting at earlier is because I would get in this road rage. Then the next day I would have the period, and suddenly
okay.
rose.
Right. Yeah, no, I've worked with some individuals who I had worked with a young woman once who she was open to meeting a prospective partner in her life, and she'd say, "Oh my God, 2 weeks out of the month, I'm like rageful. How can anybody want to be with that?"
Mm-hmm.
She said, "I don't know what to do with myself."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was tough, really tough.
Yeah, I actually kind of went on a sabbatical for many years during that time period because I didn't feel comfortable, the idea of being in a relationship, because it was, how is anybody going to want to put up with this? But also the embarrassment of, when it's getting to the end of the cycle and it gets a lot more different, shall we say, than it did when you were a young girl. And so I didn't want that experience in front of a man. It just was scary to me. And not scary, but embarrassing, humiliating.
Can you, not sure, what is it, leakage or?
Oh, well, okay. I didn't want to get too graphic.
No, can you just hint at it? Because I don't, maybe our viewers don't know.
In the end of the menopause, before I stopped having a cycle at all, there were some moments where I would go several months without anything.
I see. And then all like sudden onset.
And then I'd have a makeup session, is what I would call it. And that makeup session one night, it meant I had to grab everything I could because I didn't have enough. And I had to go to I was at Kroger at 2:00 in the morning buying, what were they called? Overnights or something.
Yeah.
Not Depends, but I didn't realize
to catch it. Right.
Yeah, they have these things that like what you wore when you first had your baby,
right,
and had to wear these very large diaper type things. So these overnights are essentially the same thing, except for you don't have to wear a garter belt, or whatever they were called.
Yeah.
1980. So there I was at 2:00 in the morning, because I didn't know if this was going to be all day or how long. So, oh my
Well,
God.
you don't know. So that's good for our viewers to know, just to have it in their
But it
mind
could happen.
in case it occurs. So thank you for being willing to share.
Yeah. It's when you're postmenopause, when you've had 1 year without a period. But what was happening with me was I would get these stop and starts. And so I would be counting down the months in my calendar, and then whoops, guess not, we're starting all over again. It was not fun.
One thing I have enjoyed is not having a period. So
yes. Oh my God. Not having to purchase, saving that $7.
Oh, it's wonderful, wonderful, wonderful.
Oh, yeah, it is wonderful. Not having to wear birth control or use birth control, not having to use birth control. Oh, lovely. It's so lovely. Frees you up.
So let's talk about some of the perks about living longer on the planet. I remember there was some kind of a joke. It's like somebody doesn't want to get older, but the alternative is leaving. So you might choose you want to get older because you want to stick around.
Yeah, to see what's going to happen.
Yes.
To see what's going to happen. Well, I have one more quote that I want to say. I love David Bowie. And that man was just an amazing singer to me. And so I found a quote that he had to say that once again, he's just an amazing person. He was an amazing person. So he says, aging is an extraordinary process where you become the person you always should have been. Oh my God. I mean, it's like like a bottle of wine. It just gets better when it gets older. But
isn't that beautiful?
I know. I mean, when he said you should have been. I mean, if I could be the person I am now at 20, my life would have gone so different.
So that brings to mind. Brings to mind something that we didn't talk about and we could just touch on, and that is somebody could get older, their body could get older, and they might not have matured at all. And maturing is like a little baby apple matures into a ripe fruit with rich taste and juiciness and whatever else in a metaphor you could use. So one of the things that, I don't know if this is because our line of work, but not everybody in our line of work loves personal growth the way you and I do. And I invite all our colleagues to get on board with that, because you really, when you have this kind of training and apply it in your own life, oh my goodness, what a bonus that is. So one of the things I have enjoyed, because it's been my intention to expand my consciousness, see more, have like a zoom out view of my life, to appreciate more of the dynamics and the elements, and in my experience of things, and then in the interactions I get to have with other people, and then to hear from others their growing awarenesses, and that maybe it's just happened coincidentally along with being on the planet longer. Although there are many young people, maybe this is because my appreciation has expanded, many young people have wisdom and common sense and sensibility, even with their playfulness. I've been sort of bringing myself along, I guess every generation is different.
Yeah.
But that maturity, some people say, well, the older I get, the more comfortable I am, the more things I can accept, the more discernment I have about things, so less things upset me because I can see more into them. So I just want to make a pitch for maturity.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's funny when I look back on my life, and I think it's pretty much the same for almost anybody. When I was 20 and thinking that I was so mature and that I knew so much about life. And then when I was 30, thinking I am really mature now, I really get life. I know it all now. And then when I was 40 and 50 and now 60, it's like you just it's amazing how each decade you look back and you say, no, now I really know it all. Now I have it all down pat now. I know life. I get it. Oh God. That's why when I go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Well, when I get younger people and I listen to them, I just roll my eyes sometimes when I hear some of the things that they say. That they just the way the haughtiness, like, oh well, I know this information. I am an expert on this. It's like, oh, and you're 20 years old and you're an expert already.
So I'm often hearing myself say, okay, you know this, you know more than you did, but what don't you know?
Good for you.
What don't you know? And there is a philosophy that I've heard, which is something about, it's like we all look at life and different things through different lenses, but to be able to adopt the lens of beginner's mind, which you would think, yeah, that's the lens of a little child learning things for the first time. Because everything we see, we do look through colored glasses, and the colors are, like you said earlier, our perceptions that have accrued based on our experiences.
Mm-hmm.
So asking what's another way to look at this, or what's another way someone could look at this, can open us up to enjoy even more about what we're involved in, or appreciate more about ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's, so it doesn't matter how old you are or how old you feel, you can still consider a fresh outlook, and even imagine that you're looking at something for the first time. And isn't there that phrase? I mean, I don't know about in your generation, but I'm thinking about my parents, the idea of you're as old as you feel, or you're as young as you feel.
Yeah.
So I've had some friends who've been, I don't know if this is a Yiddish term, kvetching.
Uh-huh.
It's a little bit like an irritable complaining. Oh, I'm so old. I have had a particular friend at age 55. I'm so old. I said, if you keep doing that, you're going to feel old the rest of your life. The truth is, you're not that old.
Uh-huh.
So you can, if you want to feel that later. You don't have to feel that now.
Mm-hmm.
So the kinds of things that our attitudes may be more malleable than we think by using that observer part of ourselves. And if you don't have that yet, get some help to see how to develop an observing part of yourself, because that really takes the edge off and gives you a lot of room to adjust what you think in order to create a container for yourself to fulfill the rest of your desires in your life, or accomplish things that you would still like to do. And that could be as simple as, I'd like to have more time to read, or I've been wanting to play with these art pencils. and I never seem to have time. Or, I still want to take a walk, but I never have time. So that there's ways to work within yourself to see if you can create opportunities for yourself to have more of what you would like to bring about, whatever age you're at.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's also important that you hang out with other people your age, so that you feel supported by that. And hanging out with people your own age when you're getting older, I think helps to longevity in that respect. It helps you to not feel alone. It helps you to understand, to talk about things like menopause. What did you go through, so that you can normalize it and feel a sense of, oh, okay, so that's what I can expect. I remember after I had my son, a lot of times I would talk to other young women who were getting ready to have a baby, and I would share my experiences with them and what it's like having a vaginal birth and what it feels like. And I'm definitely not going to discuss that, but I would discuss it with them, and I'd say, hey, this is, just so you know, this is what you can expect. And then they'd come back to me later and say, oh, thank God you told me that, because when it got to that last minute piece there, the advice you gave me, it really helped. So I think that's really important. A friend of mine, well, I'll let you comment on that, and then I'm going to say something else.
No, I support that. The other thing is that each one of these facets that we're bringing in, it doesn't have to be all one way or another. That is extraordinarily valuable, to connect with others who appear to be at your station in life, whatever that is. And then also to mix it up and to spend time with young children, spend time with teenagers.
Because you have so much wisdom to give them.
And if you don't have kids, it doesn't matter. Go to a park and hang out, and be present with mothers playing with their children. And somewhere teenagers, or whether it's tapping into something online, or where you can get some fresh stimulation in your consciousness. That's the only other thing I would add.
Absolutely. What I love is that a friend of mine who I've interviewed a couple times on my YouTube videos, she's getting ready with her husband to join a community in Fremont, California, where they're designing and building this community. And what it is it's kind of like everybody owns their own condos on this property. Then they have a community building where they have to eat a couple of meals every day together as a community. They're in their 80s. And so I think it's such a wonderful concept, because it's allowing them to live independently. It's forcing them into not forcing, putting a gun to your head, but it's putting them into a socialization piece so that they're not alone sitting around their house.
Well, they're going there voluntarily, so nobody's forcing them.
Yes, and these are people who are probably not going to be living bedridden the rest of their life. My babysitter, who's 97 years old now, she's now living with her daughter and granddaughter because she has tendencies to pass out sometimes. But she was, for about 20 years, I want to say, was living in it was kind of like an apartment complex, but everything was indoors. So when you walked out of your door, you were still inside. And so this was a senior facility for people who didn't have a lot of money. It's here in Ohio, in Grove City. And this place, and they have like a 5-year waiting list for people trying to get in here. They had a community facility where they'd have parties and celebrate birthdays and things like that. They had a bunch of rocking chairs out on the front porch. So in the summertime, pretty much everybody was sitting out there talking to each other. And they also had a system where every day you had to check in with your neighbor, you know, make sure you're okay. And if they didn't hear from you by a certain time, then they knew, okay,
That's
let's
great.
check on Stella and see how she's doing. So I think those kind of things enable people to continue living their life as they wish in their own independent way, and keep and builds on that longevity, because when you're alone as an older person, I don't think people last that long as people who have community and have that support system in place, the love and the happiness and the fun.
Unless they were a loner their whole life, and that they, you know, I think you need support because, you know, you never know if you're going to become more frail, which can happen. I mean, this happens. So it's good to have support set up around you.
Exactly.
But the loneliness factor, you know, which we really didn't delve into, different people are different. And even if you've been a loner your whole life, you might want people around, and realize that you could still have that and you didn't have that. And then there's, you know, people who are used to having people around who feel a lot of loss. If you outlive your friends and your relatives, witnessed that with my in-laws and my husband's grandparents.
Yeah.
You know.
I remember my grandmother telling me, in the last years of her life, I was sitting with her and she was saying that it's very lonely because she's the only one left of all of her friends. And she doesn't really, it's hard for her to make new friends because, you know, at 80 something years old, she was saying that she didn't have any support systems to meet people. And she was living in a condo at the end of her life. And so I guess she didn't, it was hard for her to meet new people. It wasn't something that was easy for her. So I remember hearing things like that. I think because when you get older, you're facing death, obviously. You obviously know your days are numbered. I'm always counting down and thinking, wow, I technically only have about 20 or 30 years left. And that's not a lot. Whereas it used to be about, oh, it's going to happen someday. But, you know, when you're getting to that place where you know your days are numbered, and I'm sure when I turn 80, I'm going to be thinking about it even more. But that's when you don't want to be alone, because you don't want to miss out on something. Maybe you're going to see one more thing that you never expected. You put yourself on mute, Ellen. And
yes,
so,
there's a lot of sound behind me.
Oh, okay. So I think that's important to not be alone because of those things. And you're not as likely to want to sit around your house and do nothing all the time when you're getting older. You want to be able to go out and talk to somebody. So I don't know, that's just my thoughts about not wanting to be alone.
Well, ideally, it would be nice to be in community.
Yeah.
And so it's something to think about as we go on in life. And, you know, what kinds of communities can we design for ourselves and others? And I think that's great. What your friend is going to.
It sounds like a great idea to me. I'd love to do something
like
that in the end.
And
Yeah. I've always thought that the best way to die would be to be in your, I've seen this in quite a few movies where you're just in bed laying there and propped up on the pillows and you've got your loved ones around you and they're all saying how great you were. And how they're
saying
going
it's okay to leave. It's okay to leave.
exactly saying it's okay to leave. I've always thought that that would be such a wonderful way to end my life. And then I had to put a cat down.
Mm.
And when I took Emma to the veterinarian, she had some kind of tumor in her body that came there out of nowhere. And I'm sitting there, she's on the table and all these women are around her, including me. So doctor, there was like 2 vet techs or whatever they're called. And I just like, I sat there looking at everybody in the room. I mean, I was in tears naturally, but I was like, wow, this is the way I want to die. I mean, it was just reminding me what a beautiful experience it was. And also euthanasia. I mean, that's obviously what we were doing, putting a cat down. That's something that I've never could understand why our country is so afraid of the term euthanasia and why they don't allow that when somebody has dementia or their quality of life is going to be.
I think it has to do if it's the person who's choosing that, or if the family is choosing that for the person.
Well, but it's not legal in America, period.
Right. Well, that's a protection against that. I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, to me, it's like, how come it's okay to put an animal down, but it's not okay to have euthanasia for people? I mean, it's not illegal in other countries. And I've seen documentaries where you watch people dying from euthanasia. And to me, it just looks like such a beautiful experience. And you certainly have to have certain conditions in order to do that. I mean, you can't just commit suicide, death by euthanasia.
Yeah, no, I think if it's the person's choice, I think it's
yeah. I agree.
The other thing, the other thing about all of that, I think a person needs to feel okay with death.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that's whatever way a person wraps their mind around it, or spiritually, or satisfactorily. I remember my grandfather, he was on his way and he let my sister and I know that he had no regrets. He was a person who enjoyed everything in his life. So, lives are cut short for one reason or another, where a person doesn't get to fulfill or have the experiences that they would like. And then others never really give themselves the enjoyment of things that they are bringing to themselves, because maybe they're into the next moment or wanting something more and not knowing how to experience something before jumping into the next thing. Because I think that it's a common experience, I don't know this for sure, to arrive at the end of your life through illness or accident or something where you have awareness that you didn't get to finish or have the experiences that you want, and you can leave fighting it, wanting to stay, not wanting to leave. So in a spiritual sense, it makes sense to me. For myself, I can only speak for myself, to see what I can do with making peace with things while I'm here.
Yeah.
In the desire. And listen, I can arrive at the end and still have be triggered and things come up. Oh my God, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. I don't know. But
Yeah.
in the meanwhile, I do my best to really enjoy everything.
Mhm. Yeah. And you touched on something there that you didn't actually give word to, but cleaning up your karma.
Mm.
I've had a couple of past life readings where I've learned that I'm having a life again in this lifetime with people that I didn't clean it up with in a last lifetime.
Oh, okay.
So that was enough for me to realize, okay, let me start making a list here of people I don't want to have to go through some karmic journey with again in another lifetime. And I'm going to clean that up so that that's being taken care of. So I try to be conscious of that. I know that probably sounds totally weird.
No, well, and to add right to that, I wasn't thinking that, but I'm glad that you brought that up from whatever I was saying. That and to me also that plus looking to not create new karma.
Yeah, bad karma.
Yeah, good karma, great.
Okay, yeah, but not creating new bad karma. Yeah. So yeah, that's something that I try to be mindful of in life is who do I need to clean up my karma with so that we're not on some other journey in the future or something like that.
Tied in together in an unconscious way.
Yeah, I think that should be on people's bucket lists. I mean, wouldn't that be amazing if people made a point of having a bucket list of people that they need to make amends with before they die so that they've cleaned up that karma, apologize.
And with the work that I do and that you do,
Mhm.
Anybody who wants to come to either one of us to
And
learn how to
apologize.
do that,
Uh-huh.
we'll help you, right? You'll help somebody who comes to you looking for that.
Oh yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Me too. So
I mean, to me, it's also known as having personal integrity in this lifetime, not just cleaning up your karma. So
it's
I'm
not always easy. It's not always easy.
It's not. And I've known people who didn't clean up their karma before they died with me. And, so that's something they're going to have to deal with in the next life. But when we have our spirituality talk, maybe I'll bring that up of how they cleaned it up post.
That'll be fun. Let's do that. Let's have a talk on spiritual.
They did clean it up post death in an interesting way, but we'll do that in our spirituality talk. But yeah, if somebody wants to clean up their karma with me, I'm very open to that. I mean, I've had people clean it up,
No, but I meant to facilitate and help and support somebody who's wanting to do that in their life.
Uh-huh. Yes, I think that's a good idea. Something that I do is have people, when the person's dead, that they need to make amends with or clean up something with, I have them write letters.
Yeah,
and we talk about maybe having a picture of the person in front of them, or going to the cemetery, something along those lines, and reading
and having the courage to clean up some things with people who are alive. And sometimes it means arranging to meet with them, and sometimes it does not.
Yeah.
It can be through letters that don't get mailed or an empty chair clearing. And there's other ways to do that. So we each have our ways to help people with that.
Exactly. And the name of the article is Forgiving Someone Who Isn't Sorry or Even Alive. It's a great article. It came from one of the psychology books, and I forget who wrote it. So I apologize to the author. But if somebody looks it up, they'll find it.
So, okay, is there anything that we didn't touch on that comes to us before we close?
I don't know. I think we've said a mouthful today.
Many mouthfuls. Anyway.
And I haven't been feeling very well. So for viewers, so if I seem a little different than I normally do, it's because I'm just not in the right space today. But yeah, but I think
We're good. So, okay.
we're
Thank you
good.
everyone for joining us. We look
Yeah.
forward to
The next
our
conversation.
next conversation. And I love being with you, Janine, and thank you.
Thank you, and hit subscribe, and so that make sure that you will be notified whenever we're having a new video available.
Terrific. All right.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.